Hello everyone. I'm sure you're all very aware of my previous work. Well, okay, not my previous work exclusively. The work of my team, and those like them, that is. Let me explain. Whenever we come across a cryptoid-infested area, be it spiritual, unruly animals, or just plain old, unexplainable phenomena, my team comes in and jots down a handy list of rules for everyone to follow to avoid certain death. Now, why there's such a large number of folks who don't seem capable of following those rules is completely beyond me. There's so many dead campers. But that's why we're having this quality assurance session. Us? We're the folks who go in and figure out what the rules are, and man, oh man, let me tell you, it ain't easy. So, I'm jotting this down at the moment to describe to everyone later, explain the happenings, and hope that our latest set of rules will, in fact, be more helpful. Because 5 minutes on this subreddit has really shown you guys are terrible at following written instructions. Rules, especially, you bunch of rebels. Which is weird. So clearly, it's either an issue with the rules we're jotting down, or it's you folks. So help us out in finding out the common denominator. Okay, let's get going. So first, I'm going to introduce the team. We are the Occult Observation Catalogers, OOC for short. The team is composed of a number of our interns. First off, we have Johnsy. He's a college student of Indian descent, has dark black hair, surprisingly green eyes, and is about 5'6", I guess? Roughly. Anyway, he's here to get some field experience. Let's see how that works for him. Next, we've got Rebecca, who really needs a job, and we've told her that just a few more trips out there will get her all set up for something much more long-term. Honestly, I've yet to clear that with the board, but she's made it 3 weeks. That's a new record for field work. Rebecca's a redhead who's not hard on the eyes and has brown eyes herself. She thinks I can't see through the blue contacts, but I can. She's a little shorter than Johnsy, I think. Girl is always wearing platform shoes and a skirt. Leggings with it, of course. Guess that's the style these days. She's not indecent or anything. Guess she just likes to look nice while on the job. Oh, and lastly, we've got Dieter. Dieter's from Sweden or Finland? Honestly, I can't remember which. Blonde hair, blue eyes, real tall, Scandinavian kind of fella. Nice kid, but man, oh man, has he got a stack of bricks where his brain ought to be. He's got passable English for the most part, but he's mostly here for the muscle. That boy's almost 7 freaking feet tall. It's a real Viking if you ask me. Anyway, today's goal? We're gonna visit a haunted house and determine what pisses the specter off and what appeases this specter. Then, we'll jot down the rules for this house and leave them in the mailbox or with the owner so that the next time one of you folks comes for a night to stay, you might actually survive the night. That is, if you follow the rules. So, first thing is first, we had to start off with the outside. Dieter walked around with me, knocking on various parts of the house, rattling windows, and checking the foundations for cracks or major signs of wear and tear. I'm also checking for non-supernatural things. You know, termite damage, water seepage, maybe some unwanted erosion, or chipping on the side. Dieter stopped, frozen for a moment. I sighed. First, hit, okay? What's happening, Dieter? Dieter looked at his hands and they were twitching and shaking sporadically. I think I touched that window, he said, pointing to the only window with the light on. I saw you touch the window there, bud. Mind giving it another knock? I figured he's already screwed. How much worse could it get? Dieter went to the window and knocked again. I nearly dumped a load of my pants as the light shut off, and a horrific specter's face smashed against the glass. Dieter screamed and scrambled away from the window as I watched the face of what appeared to be a drowned woman press harder and harder against the glass. Her nose broke, as did her skin, and black blood poured out of her wounds, covering the entire window in blackness before fading away. The light flicked on again. All right, rule number 1, I said, writing this down on my note, and despite my shaking hands, I said, do not knock on the window if the light is on. I checked my watch. It's 2 a.m., but let's go with after midnight. That's usually when this kind of stuff gets squirrely. I turned on my heel. You alive, Dieter? Dieter cleared his throat. Yes, I alive. Fantastic. Come on, we've got more things to check out. I turned to him. Oh, and no knocking on windows with light on, okay? I've only got one set of underwear on me, and I nearly ruined it. I turned, heading off towards the backyard. Not going commando today. Dieter nodded, trembling, and then started following me. I heard twigs snapping, and then heard Dieter walking past me. Dieter? What are you doing, buddy? I asked. Dieter's eyes were wide as he started moving towards the tree line. I see lights. What kind of lights, buddy? I asked, having a good idea of where this was going. Yellow lights. Look, don't you see them? Dieter asked. I didn't see any lights as he made his way to the tree line. After he passed into the darkness of the woods, I heard him screaming. I sighed. Rule 2. Do not enter the woods at night, especially if you see yellow lights. I paused. Best just say lights. Pretty sure the color doesn't matter here. Dieter rushed out of the tree line, scrapes and bruises all over his face and body as he ran towards me. It's after me! I sighed. I can see that, Dieter. Dieter turned and screamed in horror as tendrils of shadows whipped out of the tree line and wrapped around his body. I flinched a little as I spotted the tendrils pierce his skin with thorns and spikes before dragging him back into the woods. I underlined rule number 2. Very important, I said as I headed inside the house. Dieter, if you survive, I'll be inside. An inhuman roar echoed from the woods, and I decided it was best to leave whatever it was alone. Dieter was a big fella. I'm sure he'll be fine. Surely better off than I'd be, so to avoid becoming the wood's next victim, I decided that it was a good idea to go inside. I'm not going to claim to have nerves of steel, but I sure as shit know when to run. Great advice from Kenny Rogers. If not, there's always more interns. Speaking of the other interns, I walked inside to find Johnson clawing at his legs, which were sunk into the floor. Well, shit, what happened? I asked, doing my damnedest to act concerned for his well-being. I poked the edge of a wooden floorboard with my pen, noting that his jeans and the floorboards didn't even have a seam. It looked like something had welded him to the ground. Well, that's curious. I was walking around and I found a loose board, so I kicked it to see if there was anything there, and then the floor started to eat me. Johnsy sunk further into the floorboards, which I noticed were turning a deeper hue of red and appeared to look newer now. The fresh wood spread outwards from his body. Well, that's a shame, I sighed. Okay, so rule number 3. Do not damage or move any part of the house, even if it appears broken. Help me! Help me! Johnsy cried out as he sank to his waist. He grabbed onto my leg and shook it. Oh God! The floor was looking brand new now. I cringed a little, looking around to ensure I wasn't going to be next. Well, I don't think there's much I can do, I said, stepping away from the new floor as it creeped outwards from his body at an alarmingly rapid rate. I stepped into the kitchen area where it seemed the floor changed from hardwood to tile. I shuddered as Johnsie's screams grew more panicked as the floor sucked him in more and more. For the first time, my stomach was uneasy. As many times as I had lost interns on these projects, it's usually a situation of rounding a corner to find one of them just dead or, turned into a statue or something. Like the regular kind of stuff. Still hard to get over, but kind of used to it by now. One girl didn't follow a rule and wound up locked inside her house while a velociraptor ran around outside and ate the neighbor's dog. Want to know the crazy part? Damn thing was a chicken during the day, though we left pretty clear feeding instructions too. But I digress. This was much worse than I had seen before. "Help me, please!" Johnsie shouted as he clawed fruitlessly at the floorboards, now at chest height. His nails broke on the hardwood, but the more damage he did, the faster he sank. Finally, when Johnsie reached out to try and pull himself out, well, his arms didn't come up. His arms were now being devoured by the living room floor, which was looking very nice and updated now. It seemed it was even making the walls look like they had a fresh coat of paint. "No!" Johnsie screamed as his head was tilted back. I shivered as his screams grew garbled and the house shook. It appeared his face was melting across the floor until finally I watched his green eyes turn brown and become nothing more than a pattern of knots on the new hardwood. Rebecca came running down the steps as fast as her platform shoes allowed, her eyes wide in shock. Was that Johnsie? Just now? Screaming? She walked onto the new flooring, nothing happening to her. I sighed in relief, looking to Rule 3. Let's see. Okay, I got it. I started rewriting Rule 3. Do not try to move or fix anything broken or you'll be used to fix what you break. I smiled. Looks nice and ominous, but not off-putting. That looks perfect. Is Johnsie gone? Rebecca asked. Sorry, Rebecca. That's the sitch, I sighed. Poor bastard got eaten by the house and turned into some mahogany flooring. I knelt by the floor and gave it a knock. Wow, that is some high-quality stuff. Rebecca narrowed her eyes on me. Really? What? The kid makes good hardwood, apparently, I said, standing up. It's not like I did it to him. Nothing I could have done. He was waist deep in the floorboards by the time I found him. Shouldn't we have some kind of protection from this kind of stuff? Rebecca asked. Or are we just disposable? Oh, protection like what? Half the time, we don't even know what we're walking into. I shrugged. Besides, you're unpaid interns. It's either this or sitting in the cubicle all day. Haha. Rebecca rubbed the bridge of her nose. Please, just tell me this is my last field job. I can tell you that if you make it out of this one alive with a fresh set of rules, you're hired, I fibbed. I mean, it wasn't a lie exactly. I just wasn't certain. I couldn't bring up my suggestion to the big bosses and all, but whether or not they'd be up for a new hire was beyond my pay grade. I just observed. We heard scratching and howling from the back door. Help! Let me in! Let me in! Dieter's voice called out. Rebecca sighed. What did you do to Dieter? Again, not me. It's the house, I pointed out. Observation is our middle name, remember? Rebecca sighed and leaned out the back window. Dieter, you there? I moved to the other window to see that, yes, Dieter was there. His shirt was ripped, as was one pant leg. Dieter was also missing a shoe. He was covered in blood, both red and black. Leaves and dirt were all over him. Leading from the forest, however, I could see he had some kind of tendril attached between his shoulder blades. Yes, Rebecca. Is Dieter? Please let me in. Yes? Dieter asked. I looked at Rebecca and shook my head. Rebecca sighed. Sorry, Dieter. She went back in and closed the window. I closed my window just as Dieter appeared before the window, smashing his hands against the glass. Please! There is voice in my head! It say terrible things! Dieter shouted, hammering on the glass but not breaking it. What happened to him? Rebecca asked. Eldritch Horror or something got him, I said, jotting down on my notepad. Rule 4, do not let anyone in, even if you think you know them. Rebecca heaved a sigh. Maybe make a note about them being unable to harm you, Rebecca pointed out. Dieter could have broken that glass if he really wanted to. I smiled. Nice observation, Rebecca. I jotted down the information. They will not be able to break in as long as you don't invite them in. Rebecca looked over the notepad. Everything else seemed okay upstairs. Oh, wait. There's some banging in the closet, so do not open that. Rule 5. Do not open the closet no matter what you hear. I smiled. Nice. That's 3 for me, 2 for you. Honestly, I think that works in your favor for the fellows at the office. Rebecca said sarcastically. So, should we get going? Yep, I waved to Dieter. Sorry, buddy. Better luck next time. I trailed off. Oh, damn. Guess there won't be a next time, huh? Damn you! An inhuman voice shrieked as Dieter's body was ripped back. I felt a shiver, and an uneasiness filled my chest as I watched his once blue eyes become black, pitch black. It was as if I had stared into a void, and it had stared back into my soul. Rebecca snatched my notepad from me, ripping me out of my stupor. Rule number 6, do not look into their eyes. I shivered. Well said, Rebecca. Let's get out of here. I'm excited to end my final bit of fieldwork, Rebecca announced as we headed out of the building. So, if you ever find yourself on 318 Dogwood Avenue in Euclid, Ohio, remember the following rules. Rule number 1, do not knock on the window if the light is on after 12 a.m. Rule number 2, very, very important. Do not enter the woods at night, especially if you see lights. Rule number 3, do not damage anything or try to move or fix anything that is broken, or else you will be used to fix what is broken. Rule number 4, do not invite anyone in, even if you think you know them. They will not be able to break in as long as you don't let them in. Rule number 5, do not open the closets, no matter what you hear. Rule number 6, do not look into their eyes.